Imagine this. You have the ideal measurement and evaluation scenario. You've got stakeholder buy-in. You've got subject matter experts and measurement and evaluation specialists all supporting you to build an incredible measurement and evaluation plan to show the outcome and impact of your program. Well, and then life happens. What do you think might be the one or two problems that could prevent our measurement and evaluation plan from going as we imagined? That's the question that we're going to focus on in today's video. Hi, I am Dr. Alaina Szlachta. I am the host of Measurement Made Easy, a free community of practice for learning professionals who simply want to build some skills measuring and evaluating their learning programs. So this video is going to talk about the two problems that we did not anticipate encountering in a real life scenario with Dan Bennett, who is the founder of Video for Entrepreneurs and does a quarterly cohort course. We wanted to show the outcomes and impact of his program, and we had a brilliant plan, which if you want to check out the plan, I have that in the show notes down below. So, what do you imagine might be the one or two things that could go wrong with a measurement and evaluation plan? Remember, we had stakeholder support. We were working with subject matter experts, and I was the measurement and evaluation specialist that supported Dan in putting this plan together. Knowing all of that, again, the ideal situation. Well, what do you think could have gone wrong? And let's see if the answer that you come up with is the same as what went wrong in Dan's real life scenario. Here we go.
Yeah, essentially we were trying to gather information and data throughout the cohort instead of just right at the end, how'd you like it? Not only to be able to, this is important, of course, but not only to be able to create marketing and messaging that was better and showed people on the outside of the course more clearly what's available in here, what's possible in here, and what other people went through, but also to give feedback in a really rich way to the people who are participating, not only through them critiquing and giving feedback to each other, but looking at their own work as well as a professional looking at their work too. And I think the biggest, I don't even know how to say it, the thing we were after was, it's great, Dan, you're good at what you do, and this whole thing's kind of magical, but not everyone wants to buy magic. Some people want to buy a solution. So how do we harness this magic and make it something that people can understand?
Yep, we used a bowling alley visual in our earlier conversation, and it's like, oh, I can see the lanes, and I can see how I've set up this environment, and I'm going to teach you how to become a better bowler. He's not, but it's an easy example, right? When we sell through marketing and through story and testimonials, anything we sell, we want to be able to sell the same vision. Dan has a vision, and it's really clear because he's the expert. But we want to use data collection to help a prospective customer determine, is this the right fit for me? Do I really want to be in a bowling alley environment, getting better at bowling? Is this the right solution for where I'm stuck? And so getting people to be on the same page by telling the story of, this is the environment, these are the outcomes, and helping people to self-select the right solution for whatever it is that they're challenged by.
People can understand.
Yep, we used a bowling alley visual in our earlier conversation, and it's like, oh, I can see the lanes, and I can see how I've set up this environment, and I'm going to teach you how to become a better bowler. He's not, but it's an easy example, right? When we sell through marketing and through story and testimonials, anything we sell, we want to be able to sell the same vision. Dan has a vision, and it's really clear because he's the expert. But we want to use data collection to help a prospective customer determine, is this the right fit for me? Do I really want to be in a bowling alley environment, getting better at bowling? Is this the right solution for where I'm stuck? And so getting people to be on the same page by telling the story of, this is the environment, these are the outcomes, and helping people to self-select the right solution for whatever it is that they're challenged by. Going in, you felt like, okay, my past cohorts were great. It's the right time for us to start measuring and evaluating the stuff that I had been doing with previous cohorts. And so, Dan, what was the biggest thing that happened that you didn't expect that really threw not only, of course, your facilitation and changed how you delivered the 4 weeks, but also changed how we use the measurement strategy?
Yeah, I'll preface this a little bit by saying for anyone who's like, okay, you're talking about your third cohort and gathering data, that means you only did two. What kind of patterns could you have seen in two cohorts? I do want to say I've been doing this work for 15 years, and in those first two cohorts I saw patterns that already existed in the work I've been doing with entrepreneurs and professionals along the way in a one-to-one or small group capacity. So it was giving me information, even though it was only two cohorts, of like, this makes sense, ooh, I was surprised by that in a good way, wow. So I went into cohort 3, I don't think dangerously, but definitely feeling confident. I was still open to everything. We were doing brand new things. We were gathering data we'd never gathered before, but I went in feeling pretty darn good. And it was the largest group I had yet. So I've had growth every cohort, which feels incredible. I'm trying to build something here. And then some of the unforeseen things that happened were people coming in really wanting to do the work, but knowing somewhere in those 4 weeks they'd be off for a week, which to me sounded like, well, we can overcome this because we record our live sessions. I can jump on a call with you after you absorb those live sessions later. We can get you up to speed and catch up, no problem. So we started to kind of hear some of those rumblings, administer some of those solutions, keep moving on. Week 2, it got a little bit more intense. We had our first person drop off, put a pin in that. The first two cohorts have both had someone who dropped completely off. Okay, this makes sense. I'm seeing a pattern here. Okay, pull the pin out. We had someone completely drop off. They wanted to be in the next cohort, so that was good news. They didn't want their money back. They just wanted to go to a future cohort. That's exciting. Okay, still moving along. Then week 3, beginning of week 3. What in the moment I described to you very specifically that ended up being actually an incredible learning lesson and something that wasn't as bad as I felt in the moment. I used the word crumble. It felt like the cohort started to kind of like crumble. There was some cracks, and we can fix cracks, but when the crumbling started, I'm like, oh boy. And technically in a relatively short amount of time, we went from 10 of us to 5 of us. And that felt in the moment, especially as a creative person, like, I'm failing. I did something wrong. Why is this happening?
Right.
Why in the cohort where we're collecting data is this happening? And again, nothing was negative. Everyone wanted to move to the next cohort. It was life. It was surgeries. It was world travel. There were so many things that came up in people's lives. And for the first time, I'm like, whoa. If you asked me last cohort, what would you do, Dan, if half the people dropped off midway through? I would be like, half the people? I've never had half the people drop. So yeah, sticking it right there week 3 so I can stop talking now. It felt like everything was kind of crumbling and falling apart.
Yeah.
Okay, so was the outcome what you expected? Maybe, maybe not. If you are a seasoned learning professional, perhaps the reality of people not showing up and of people dropping out of our programs is something you're really familiar with. But if you're newer to the learning and development scene, let me tell you, this is a real challenge. And another sort of sub-challenge to that is that people, if they don't show up or they don't show up as we expected that they would, it's really difficult to collect data on the experience that they're having such that we can tell the story of that outcome and that experience for other people to see and understand the value of. Okay, is this a measurement and evaluation challenge, or is this a learning design challenge? This here is one of the things I have been seeing over and over again as I've been around the block doing learning and development and now in my consulting practice, that the challenge and the problem that we come against in measuring and evaluating learning oftentimes has nothing to do with the approach that we use to collect data, analyze it, and hopefully show some outcomes. The problem is actually with how we designed the learning experience. There's 2 things that I want to share with you that I think will make a huge influence, not only in designing better learning experiences, but also preventing some of those problems, just like Dan and I experienced in our recent measurement and evaluation challenge. So, first thing is, think about your learning and development initiative as a product. And before anybody buys a product, they kind of want to have an expectation of what they're going to get out of using that product. That was something that we didn't do a very good job communicating. And of course, there's always room for improvement. So I hope that you will think differently about your learning experiences, specifically how you market them, as a result of Dan and I's challenge. So we needed to be a little bit more clear about the commitment that learners were going to make by joining Dan's cohort course. Specifically, we needed to let them know about how many hours it was going to take them to do the work, because if you don't do the work, you don't get the results. And of course, people buy learning because they want the outcome, not necessarily the learning. The second thing that we could have done differently, and that is a little bit more research on the target audience that we were serving. Not necessarily to know the problems that they were experiencing, because we already knew that. What we didn't know was how their everyday working environment could become a problem in their ability to participate in the learning experience. We should have done a little bit of market research and a needs analysis with our target audience to ask them, well, what is an ideal length of time if you were to commit to a live cohort program? How long would ideally that look like for you? 30 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes, etc. Would you rather that we meet once a week, twice a week, or 3 times a week? And here's what that looks like. And then also, would you imagine yourself participating and showing up at all live experiences, or would you prefer some asynchronous and some live opportunities to engage in this program? So had we done a little bit more of that analysis, we probably would have anticipated that we needed to design an experience that was really asynchronous and giving people that super flexibility to be able to show up live when they can, or if they couldn't show up live, even if they really wanted to, that we had something prepared for them that was an equally valuable learning experience if they couldn't show up to the live 1 hour or 90-minute session. So really, we needed more information about our target population, about their ideal environment for learning. So if we had done those 2 things different, which again, those are learning design, those aren't measurement and evaluation, we would have likely had more people able to respond and engage with our data collection opportunities that we had baked into the learning experience. Because remember, if people don't show up as we imagine, well, then it's going to be a lot more difficult to collect the data in the way that we planned. So the third and final thing that I'll share with you, and hopefully this will help you to not only collect great data, but design better experiences. And that is, how can we make it easier for our learners to give us the data that we want? So what we had done was anticipated doing all the data collection in the live experience. And I think for people who can show up consistently to live experiences, that makes a lot of sense. But in our case, we were working with busy entrepreneurs, and these entrepreneurs couldn't show up to the live experience every single scheduled time. So, well, if we didn't have another way for them to engage with the surveys that we had embedded in the experience, well, we weren't going to get any of that data. So had we done a better job making it easy for people to share their data and their experience with us in a variety of formats, we would have also gotten better, more seamless collection of data. So here's what I recommend. One, that you definitely try as hard as you can to collect data in your live experiences, because your response rate is going to be 80 to 100%. And that's the best that we've seen in our industry. If you can't collect the data live, well, then where are people showing up if not live? Is that in some sort of social group? Is that in a learning management platform? Or is that in coaching calls or things like that? So if people are showing up in other places to engage in your experience, how else can you make the data collection process be baked into those other areas too? And then lastly, if people aren't showing up in any of the ways that you anticipated, whether it's live or asynchronous, then I would definitely reach out to them. And when you reach out to them, whether it's via phone call or a text or an email, maybe after asking if they're okay, you could say, hey, I just have a couple questions for you, and would you mind answering them for me now? And then you can ask the questions that you would have had them complete in the survey and just manually upload that data to your spreadsheet. Maybe it's a little bit more cumbersome, but at the end of the day, for those people who just need a little bit more hand holding, why not give it to them if it's something that we can do? So that's all I have for you now. Those were the 3 lessons that we learned about what we could have done differently. And again, it was all about our approach to designing learning, and specifically, not even the content, the environment. How could we design our environment in a way to meet the needs and the life of the entrepreneurs that we were serving? So I hope that that is helpful for you. You have some fresh perspective that you can take to improve your programs. And of course, if you want a live community to help build skills, you know where to find us. We're available on Mondays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you cannot show up because of time zones or just life like usual, feel free to use the comment section in these videos or just message me on LinkedIn with any questions that you might have about measurement and evaluation. I'm just here to help. All right. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.